Hello, I'm John McNamara, the retired Director of Adult Faith Formation from St. Anthony's Parish in Rocky Point. One of the topics that really has fascinated people for many years is the topic of the problem of evil. And as a matter of fact, many people kind of struggle with their faith based on this problem of evil. And they look at it and they say, well, if God is so good, why is there so much evil in the world? And can't an all-powerful God really stop that evil? I came across an interesting take on it recently from Dennis Turner in a recent issue of Commonweal magazine. And he combined two very divergent sources in his reflections, the philosopher David Hume and the spiritual writer and doctor of the church, Julian of Norwich. And it's fascinating when you look at these two pieces and kind of put them together. So I just thought to share some reflections on the problem of evil and take a look at those two authors and see what they have to share with us. You wrote a book called The Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion, and he poses this problem about evil. And he looks at it in terms of the different levels of evil and what levels God kind of allows and what we can think about God in terms of allowing this evil to exist in our world. And certainly there are different levels of evil. For example, one of the examples is a lion eating an antelope. Now, you think of that and you say that's kind of evil. It's the stronger preying on the weaker, and some people would be very upset about that, but that's one type of evil that we see in nature. And it's unfortunate, certainly for the antelope, but it's not kind of at that level that it might concern a significant number of people about evil. Another aspect is in terms of an earthquake. People are destroyed and homes, lives are ruined by earthquakes, and horrible things happen as a result of earthquakes and storms. Those are kind of natural evils, and really, when you look at it, basically, if God were to intervene in those situations and he would suspend the laws of nature, it would be impossible for us to discover really what are the laws of nature and then, therefore, maybe avoid living in certain areas or coping with that reality in a different way by building our structures in a different way to resist the force of the earthquake. So it's kind of a different level of evil as well. Then we think of the idea of physical pain. And why doesn't God eliminate all physical pain? But really, physical pain really is helpful to a certain degree also because it really helps us to avoid things like fire, or walking on a broken leg. Certainly, we don't want to put our hands near a hot surface because of the physical pain. And when you think of it, the genetic disorder, CIPA, is the chronic inability to feel pain. So that chronic inability is really a detriment to somebody's development. So that feeling of pain is kind of not always something we can measure evil by. Also, we could say, well, maybe the pain should just be tolerable pain. But then, well, tolerable pain raises the whole issue of maybe it could fail to do its job because it could lead us to worse injury. So when you think of pain, not necessarily, it's something that God could totally eliminate, really, when you think about it. The problem really comes down to more moral evil. One of the things that Julian of Norwich had to confront is the Black Death. The Black Death, 1/3 of all of the inhabitants of England died from the Black Death during Julian's lifetime. So she knew about that type of evil. But the evil that really concerned her more and you more was what we call moral evil. And she asked, well, why is there sin at all? Why is there this reality of sin? Why do people make those types of choices? The traditional answer, of course, has been free will. Julian, however, not really satisfied with free will when she looked at that situation, because she said, when you think about it, in heaven, there will be free will and there will be no evil. So why is there free evil in our situation here on earth? Really, a good question when you think about it. And when she looked at it, she came up with a word that Turner talks about and defines for us, behovely. And behovely really kind of translated in our language of today would be nothing is amiss. It's translated as fitting or befitting, just right. And the Latin term for that, convenience. So things are right. Things are just the way they should be, is the sense that Julian had when reflecting on moral evil. And when you look at it, our perspective is, well, wait a minute, is it just right? When you think of some of the moral evils that we've had to confront, unfortunately, in our own times, we think of the moral evil of the Holocaust. We think of the moral evil in Rwanda. We think of the genocides that happen. We think of all of these terrible, unfortunate, awful situations, and we say, well, how is that behovely? How is that nothing is amiss? Obviously, something here is amiss. But she puts it in a different framework. She says, it's not a logical or a spatial sequence. We tend to think very logically about things. And she says it's not really that at all. It's really more part of a narrative, part of a story, part of what we would call salvation history. So there's a telling of a story. And really, when you think about it, really kind of fits in with our idea of the incarnation. Why did the incarnation happen? Certainly, it's gratuitous gift of God taking on human flesh. But really, it's something that's part of a story. The story is contained in the prophecies. So way before there was an incarnation, there was revelation, of course, through Abraham, through the Jewish people, and there were prophecies that this Messiah would come, that light would come into darkness, that this new life would be shared with us, that we would be renewed. And so there's a story that's going on here. And when you look at really Hume's conception here of God, very different. You get the sense more of the deism type of God, kind of God apart from creation. And we look at things very differently. We look at it more in terms of the incarnation aspect, God becoming present here and God taking on human flesh. Julian knows that there is a solution to the problem of sin. She firmly believes there is this solution. But she also knows that we do not know it. For Hume, on the other hand, the contrast is there's no solution at all. Julian says there is a solution. Things are okay. Nothing is amiss. Things are as they should be, but we do not know the solution. Very different mindset than that of Hume. She says, we have to accept the provisional. Difficult for us, we want definitive, we want the answers, right? She says we have to accept the provisional. The provisional is part of the story, part of our story. Incompleteness, it's part of the narrative, that incompleteness. And it can't be completed in history. There's something that transcends, that goes beyond history. Because the completed narrative is really the end of the story. And Turner quotes, very good quote from Bentham. He says, "A writing that is pretentiously finished is not theological. It is parody." Because we can't say it's finished. We can't say it's over. We can't say it's done. The story is not complete. There's more to be discovered, more to be known, and what we know is provisional. What we know is incomplete. It ends where unending begins.